Ready?
Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Brisker.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And etc.
Now, Bears Etc. brought to you by Chevy Drives Chicago, the official truck partner of your Chicago Bears.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and enjoy your turkey bowls in the backyard, the park, or wherever traditions you celebrate and wherever this day may take you. Football and this holiday, a match made in heaven. With Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. We discussed today on episode 190 of the Bears Etc. podcast. And this episode of Bears Etc. brought to you by ChevyDriveChicago.com, the official truck of your Chicago Bears. Of course, the Bears play tomorrow, Friday in Philadelphia. It's the only game in town, a Black Friday spectacular, a game that will be viewed worldwide, heard worldwide as well. It's on ESPN 1000 of the Bears radio network starting at 2 o'clock Chicago time. And, Tom, before we get into the battle, I know you and your family love football, but as a kid, you and Ricky, your brother, were you guys too big to be playing, turkey bowls in the park in Joliet with your neighborhood buddies? Or I don't know. What did you guys do?
All right, take this into consideration. From my freshman year to my senior year in high school, I practice every Thanksgiving because we were in the state championship.
Oh.
So football was the norm when I was in high school. And because the state championship games in the state of Illinois are this weekend, it was an enormous day because, you had the buildup of the turkey dinner, but you first have to go to a Gordy Gillespie practice that sometimes lasted over 3 hours.
All right, I got another one for you, right? So I just saw this on Twitter. It was a highlight of the Eagles against the Giants back in the day, and you played against both these guys and with these guys. So Keith Byers was on the Eagles, and there was a big offensive play, and he did a blindside block on Pepper Johnson and sent him flying, just flying. So Merlin Olsen was the analyst on the play. But the sub-story of that is that these guys were best friends at Ohio State, the best men in their respective weddings, and he still laid the lumber when you always say have your head on a swivel. Could you imagine doing that to Ricky or Ricky doing that to you in a game as opponents?
I could.
You
because
could.
I think you'd kind of want to walk away laughing and knowing that you got the best of them. Because when we were in a snowball fight when we were kids, he wouldn't aim less for my face or head than he would if it was one of my friends. So, that's just kind of what the mentality that you're built with, and you can let bygones be bygones after it. And I played with Keith Byers with the Miami Dolphins. So I know what his size and his structure and how physical of a player he could be. And, Jeff, sometimes that's kind of a reward hit. Because even though you're best of friends, you got an opportunity to go up there and just
honestly
blindside somebody into oblivion.
Because that's what this was not everybody just a simple little pop. This is not like a friendly love tap. He sent him hurtling through the air with the greatest of ease.
Vividly.
Oh, I don't know if we could be friends.
Well, that wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter. I'd still hit you.
That was something else. All right, so in the spirit of loving football like we do, this is a big game. There's no, and that's an understatement. It's a battle between first-place teams for a second straight week for the Bears. Obviously, they dispatched the Steelers at Soldier Field. Now they go into Philly. Each team 8-3. An Eagle team probably pretty angry after blowing a 21-point lead in Dallas and losing on the road. These teams are 2-3 in the NFC playoff seeding. The Eagles have beaten each of the four top 8 NFC teams right now that they've faced here in 2025. The Bears are 3-0 against the NFC East. The Eagles 3-0 against the NFC North here in 2025. There's so much on this, not to mention it's a standalone game on the day after Thanksgiving. How are you framing this game? And I heard Ben Johnson. Actually, you'll hear it on ESPN on Friday, but He said it's a privilege to play the day after Thanksgiving. And not just because it's a Friday game. He's thinking like you, played in state football playoffs. You play in college games. There's a specialness about playing after Thanksgiving, and we all know the sub-meaning. It's big.
You know what it used to say, after the 85 season, Ditka, the first thing he told us when we went to training camp is you're going to get every team's best shot. You are the past Super Bowl winner. That's the Philadelphia Eagles. They went out and they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And so right now, until further Super Bowls, they are the hierarchy of the NFL. If you go out there in their stadium in a really hostile environment and you put the NFL on notice that you belong, then you're thought of completely differently after that game, and it's going to show worldwide. So everybody around the world's going to know it, not just a portion of the nation on a Sunday broadcast.
Hey, Bears fans, Steinhoffels is a proud partner of the Chicago Bears. This Bears season, Steinhoffels is partnering with Special Spaces Illinois to create dream bedrooms for children battling cancer. For every false start caused by the Bears defense during a home game, Steinhoffels will donate $1,000 to Special Spaces Illinois. Shop in store and online at steinhoffels.com. Tom, what is your opinion of a Friday game? This is the fifth in history on Black Friday, all the way back to the 1960 Oilers beating New England, and the Oilers went on to win the AFL title. The Bears have it back in the 1930s playing teams on a Friday. What do you think of a Friday game?
I love it. I love short week games. I like the fact that they're not during the course of the regular season when they're interfering with high school football on Friday nights. I'm glad it's after most of the high school seasons are over and now we're to the high school playoffs. But I love it. To me, I always look forward to it because I knew if you had a short week, then you weren't going to be physically punishing each other during the course of week of practices, because you most likely go no pads if you play on a Thursday. And then you get an extra 48 hours to rest your body to get freshened up and ready for a late season divisional in some heavy duty opponent push here at the end.
Ben Johnson at the podium in his final appearance this week with the media on this short week on what Caleb Williams and the offense will be looking at against the Eagles' defense.
I mean, as a play caller, it's the right balance between how do we attack that opposing defense, but yet we want our guys to play fast, knowing they're not getting as many practice reps. And so, fortunately, we're towards the back half of the season now, and I have a better feel for our guys and how much information they can handle and newness they can handle on a short week. And so I feel better about that from a volume perspective. But yet as a head coach, I still want to go through all this tape and make sure I have a big picture mindset in terms of how we want this game to go for us. That gives us the best chance to come away with a win. And so it'll be all the way up until probably kickoff time that I'm watching the tape, and I'm just making sure my head's in the right spot to where I can help our guys out the most.
What are the keys when preparing Caleb to face those pre-snap disguises of a Vic Fangio defense? What do you tell Caleb about those?
Yeah, it's I mean, he does a great job. It all looks the same for the most part pre-snap, and then post-snap you try to get your confirmation on what those coverages are. And so he's got to make sure he maintains discipline with his eyes, maintain discipline with what he sees post-snap. Our route runners got to be very detailed and disciplined in how they're doing things, making sure we're at the right depths and recognizing whether it's, is it quarters, is it cloud, is it single high. It all changes on the snap. And when you have elements of our offense that we are reading the coverage with our routes, I think, it's a challenge to make sure everything's on the same page in the passing game. I think they do a great job making it muddy. They really do. And I think that's part of the beauty behind what they do.
And when you watch Jalen Carter, what do you find most impressive about the impact he has?
Yeah, I mean, he's a twitchy guy, violent player, just very difficult to block one-on-one. And then he finds a way to split double teams as well. So you can see a number of teams this year on tape, they try to get him on these backside combinations or even front side on the deuce blocks, and yet he finds a way to split in between those guys. And so it's really impressive. Plays hard. I mean, you see him all over the tape, even on these plays that most defenses take off, like the offense clocking it in the 2-minute drill. He's over here trying to dive between the center's legs and get an interception. And so we're going to be mindful of where he's at. And it's not just him. I think Jordan Davis is playing really good football up front. They got a lot of depth on the edges right now. Their linebackers, they're stacked linebackers. I mean, they got 3 or 4 guys that can really play, run to the football, hit, downhill. I mean, it's a really good unit. And so we're going to have to make sure that we're, it starts with our technique. We got to play with low pad level. We got to come off the football, and we got to play physical this week.
So he really got into detail, and this is right up Ben's alley. He is deciphering every little wrinkle that he sees on tape, and he is diving deep because that's a sign of respect, not only for the magnitude of this game, even though you try to go 1-0 each week. It's Vic Fangio, and he's highly respected.
Yeah, I like the fact that he starts with Vic Fangio and his, formula of defensive football and how it's infiltrated around the rest of the football league. And there's a lot of other defensive coordinators that try to run his style. But the formula starts in Vic's head. You can put the formula to put a product out there that looks like the Eagles, but how does Vic Fangio call the game? And he did get into some other players, Jalen and Jordan Davis and stuff. When we look at a Ben Johnson offense, the motions, the way they line up, their different formations, it tries to be a little bit different every single play. Now, when you talk about Vic Fangio, or he talks about Vic Fangio, he tries to make it look the same every play. And then as the cadence begins, then you start seeing subtle changes amongst the defense. So it's a lot difference of an offensive coordinator trying to look different a lot as opposed to an defensive coordinator that tries to look the same all the time. And this is going to be an incredible chess match between all coordinators, offense, defense, from both teams.
And special teams, for that matter. They know each other very well. The two coordinators, Richard Hightower, worked with the special teams coordinator of the Eagles in San Francisco back in the day. And, there's much respect also for offensive coaches that make everything look the same but different. And I've heard Caleb say it. I've heard Ben say it about the offense, and Sean McVay lives by it in L.A. To watch this tape afterwards, however it turns out, it's going to be a fun watch.
Kevin Byard that said the offense can go 3 and out the first series and the stadium's already booing you.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of exterior emotions that never come from the locker rooms that will factor into this game as well.
All right, Caleb Williams, let's listen in to him talking about Vic Fangio. He's starting to sound and speak like his head coach and play caller, and why this team is in a different place more than a year ago. At this time, things were much different.
He limits explosive plays. He has a great D line, so that limits run games. You got to get more double teams on their D lines, which means it allows their backers to be a little bit more free. And then they got explosive players in the secondary that can go up and get the ball or bat it down and things like that. I know they got a couple guys down right now, but their guys that are stepping in are well equipped.
You guys have talked over the last years about kind of the toll that Brian Flores takes on you just intellectually during the course of the game.
Yep.
How might you imagine does Vic have a similar toll, kind of in a very different way? Or?
It's in a different way, for sure. Just they do well hiding coverages. Speaking on Vic, they do well hiding coverages and hiding pressures and waiting till the ball is snapped to do a bunch of different rotations and things like that. So. They're different, but unique in their own ways.
Caleb, this team was in such a different place a year ago at Thanksgiving time. When you look back on that, outside of the coaching change, what has been the biggest difference for you and where this team is at now?
Yeah, I would say I've spoken on it multiple times now. Is the belief. When you have a certain amount of belief between all 3 phases on the from the players and special teams, defense and offense. That belief becomes contagious. That's something that Ben has provided in us, and the other coaches have provided in us, and instilled in us is that belief, and in the coaches. You have belief in the coaches. Obviously, we believe each other out there, but you got belief in your coaches, and in between the players, you can do a lot in the field. And we're coming out with these wins. Obviously these recent ones have been, a little bit closer than we wanted to be, but that's what the NFL is. And so we're going to keep growing and try and, focus on winning games. And like I said, the belief has been probably the main thing.
Caleb, by the way, and Jalen Hurts, products of Oklahoma, obviously USC and Alabama, respectively, in their backgrounds as well. But, I made a double check. They're basically the same size, Tom. 6'1", mid-220s, built similarly, both protect the football, both mobile. Hurts 17-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Caleb 16-4. And these are the two quarterbacks with the most starts in the NFL since last season with no interceptions. 21 for Hurts, 20 for Williams. Hurts 13-2 at home since 24, including the playoffs. Williams 5-9 on the road, including 4-2 this season, and Caleb with 5 straight NFC wins. Where are they the same but different?
They're the same in everything you've said. They got a similar template. They got a similar style of their athleticism. They understand the importance in their role in the success of their football team. However, I don't know how comparable they are at this point because Jalen's been fortunate to be in the same system now for a couple years, and Caleb is just scratching the surface of where he's going to be in a couple years. This would be an interesting comparison if they were on the same NFL level. That's not the case, but you still have to be super encouraged by what Caleb, and when you say he sounds like Ben, I like that because everything I've heard out of Ben's mouth, I appreciate and I believe.
We forget, some do anyway, that Jalen Hurts, I've talked to some friends that didn't realize he wasn't a first-round pick, let alone the first overall pick. He was a second-round pick. He was a second-round pick, and there were concerns for a variety of reasons, but those have been admonished. This is a 6-year veteran, and I have a ton of respect for his leadership style and how he handles his business on the field. Bears fans, gear up at the Pro Shops at Soldier Field, your home for officially licensed jerseys, headwear, hoodies, and more, open daily near the Veterans Memorial Waterwall. The Pro Shops at Soldier Field, a Fanatics experience. The Eagles' run game, some say, is sputtering or looks kind of on the boring side, not very inventive or creative, even with Saquon Barkley. Do you disagree?
100%.
I do, too.
Because, Saquon Barkley is not just bursting onto the scene. He has league-wide respect from coordinators and players. So, like the Eagles getting every team's best effort because they're Super Bowl champs, the defense is giving the best effort at getting Saquon Barkley stopped because he is, last year he had the best year in the league. So they all have a tremendous amount of respect for him, and the way to stop Philly offense is to stop Saquon Barkley first and let it filter out to the passing game. So Saquon Barkley is never going to sneak into another stadium again and just show up. But, they have some depth at the running back position that they're not afraid to start giving some late season carries to some of the other guys in the backfield.
Yeah, Tank Bigsby, who they brought in from Jacksonville, he's had a pretty good average yards per carry in the few attempts he's had. Saquon, 1.9 yards per carry in the fourth quarter this season. A year ago, it was 6.6. Now, numbers lie sometimes because when he's ripping off 60-plus yard touchdowns, that jacks everything up. The down-to-down number, I don't know, but that's the biggest worry for Dennis Allen. The guy is always a handoff away from going the distance.
Yeah, they have some injury interruptions on the offensive line as well. And sometimes when you pay guys this handsomely on a football team, sometimes some of the replacements that they are playing aren't being paid for what they're capable of being in the big picture.
Because of the injury situation, certainly at linebacker, Dennis Allen will be getting those backups ready to go once again for this matchup. And also, he knows he'll be facing that tush push.
Everything we do is all about developing and preparing because you never really know when that opportunity is gonna come up. And if we're not doing a great job, look, we've got young coaches, Cannon Matthews, Matt Giordano's doing it, Kevin with the linebackers. Bill Johnson spends a lot of time with the defensive line outside of our normal meeting time. So we do a lot extra with the guys that aren't necessarily expected to play a lot of snaps because eventually they have to play snaps. And nobody cares. I mean, 90% of the world doesn't care about your problems. The other 10% is glad you got them. So, that's the way we operate.
Speaking of problems, you got the tush push. How do you prepare for that?
Yeah.
What do you tell you guys?
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously we saw it twice last week. And the thing that makes it even more challenging is that they've got several plays off of it, so it's a tough play to stop. I think this team runs it better than anybody else in the league. I think the best way to defend it is not getting those situations, and trying to create more third and longer, fourth and longer situations, keeps them out of those type of situations. But it's certainly it's a difficult play to stop. We do have a plan, in place, and we feel like it's a good solid plan in terms of not only trying to stop that play, but all the plays that come off of it, and that's what makes it even more difficult to stop.
So he's got a lot of praise for his coaching staff, the great job done at the linebacker level, Richard Smith, Kevin Cook, his assistant, doing a nice job. But I really want to get into the weeds a little bit on the tush push. What can be done? He says they've got a plan for it, and especially the offshoot now that a team, bounced a Kenneth Gainwell to the outside and went 55 yards on the Bears last week. What are you bracing for if they get into those short yardage situations and go to the tush push? How do you deal with it?
I think they'll do some exploratory surgery. They'll run a tush push, and if they believe that the Bears have a guy big enough and strong enough, i.e. Andrew Billings, that can stalemate the center immediately and make the quarterback look for an alternative route, maybe they can win a tush push. And then you got to be leery of what they would play off of the tush push after that. So I guess, both teams are going to have to see what happens on the first one, or if they run multiple tush pushes, that, how they go in alternate directions from directly behind center.
Score big at your local Chevy dealer. The Chevy Silverado will take you through this season in style. Chevy Drive Chicago, official truck partner of the Chicago Bears. The turnover story. The Bears lead the NFL. It's been consistent over the course of the season. Really impressive work, and now they're going up against an Eagles team that does not give up the football very often. It'll be an interesting watch, something to keep an eye on over the course of the game. And Dennis Allen's team leading the league in takeaways with 24. The Eagles, the fewest giveaways with 6. Packers next on the Bears' schedule after this Philadelphia game, only 7, and the Bears have only given the ball away 8 times. Eagles, Tommy, also have been held scoreless in the fourth quarter in each of their 3 losses this season, and they are a plus 33-point differential in the first quarter, where the Bears are plus 23. You make anything out of that, and how does that factor in? Because the Bears have been very good in the fourth quarter offensively when necessary.
Well, I think sometimes you got to focus on incompletions as much as you do turnovers. So yeah, if you go out there and you don't have a handful of turnovers, if you create more than a handful of incompletions, then you're winning the game. You're winning the battle of defensive football. Turnovers, takeaways is just the fortunate side of some of the results of good defensive play, tip balls, punched out balls that create fumbles. So, it's every game is not gonna, the formula is not gonna be the same every game. And I'm just glad that Dennis Allen is making sure that the players are mentally and physically prepared when you have to get into your depth a little bit, because that's what really gives me the sense of confidence of the big picture of wins.
Here's Kevin Byard, the Philadelphia native, going back home to play against a team he played for 1 year, breaking down the Eagles offense.
First and foremost, you talk about Saquon Barkley. Like you said, he hasn't had the year that he's had last year, but he's still a threat every time he touches the ball. He's a guy we're going to have to corral. And I think when you talk about game plan against a team like that, I think he's definitely priority number 1 to stop him. And then you talk about AJ and Smitty. AJ's still that guy. I spent 4 years with him, just watching him on film. He's very, very talented. But honestly, if you watch the film, Smitty's been the guy that I think Jalen Hurts probably has the most chemistry with receiver-wise. He's making plays down the field. He's finding them in the slot, option routes on third down. I think he's kind of going to Smitty first. So I think if we can eliminate those big plays down the field, that'd be good. But then also, obviously, Jalen, he's still a great quarterback. You know, like you said, stats for the entire offense has been down, but they're finding ways to win. I mean, look at us. You know what I mean? Like, our stats hasn't been great on defense, but we're finding ways to win, whether it's creating takeaways, getting out the field on third downs and stuff like that. So, you know, stats is something that we can all look at and judge, but at the end of the day, you know, they're finding ways to win. And I think that's just the testament of their culture and our culture. So it's definitely going to be a challenge for us, just culture against culture, whose culture is better.
They've been in as many one-score games as you guys have been. Is there a different sort of approach, knowing that this is a team that also knows how to grind it out in those final minutes of the fourth quarter, and what you guys have to do to mitigate that?
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it, I mean, this is a team that was just in the Super Bowl. So, you know, they have a winning culture. They have a winning mentality. We know that we preach 60 minutes. We know they're going to be a 60-minute team as well. So there's going to be no panic on us, but we just know that every single play, you never know what play is going to be that could be the deciding factor of this game. So that's why I'm, you know, just as this team and the way we're preparing right now, like, it's a short week. We understand all that. The body's not going to feel great on game day, but we have to take advantage of every rep that we can get in practice, the film study and everything, because you know, this is going to be a great game for us as talented-wise, but then I'm sure the coaches and all that stuff, just how, you know, who's going to be coached better, who's going to play better and all those things, because this is a heavyweight match for sure. And then obviously we're going into a hostile environment of stadium that I've played against. You know, that stadium, for example, if their offense go 3 and out and start the game, they're going to start booing them. You know, it's kind of one of those environments where it's going to be very hostile. So hopefully we can kind of start fast and kind of get the crowd on, you know, kind of against their own team. So.
The interesting angle to this is Byard being an ex-teammate for a while in Tennessee with A.J. Brown. And A.J. Brown has had a couple of big games against the Bears. Certainly in their last meeting, he had a big day. It'll be interesting to see how the Bears plan on defending him and if he'll be fed the football after having his best game of the year against Dallas.
Oh, I thought you were going to play him. You know, the thing about it is the first name that Kevin Byard brings up is Saquon Barkley. So that guy is not going to leave the minds of all defensive players. But he has experience with A.J. Brown. He knows what a good football player is. The game that he's coming off of, you know, it maybe that finally got him over the hump and realizes that he's still a good football player, and maybe Jalen realized that he is a multiple go-to guys. What did he do? Talk about Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
Saying Devontae Smith is he's the main guy that gets this offense going.
Right, he's their go-to on third down for sure. Excellent route runner. Maybe A.J. isn't the most devout route runner in terms of how it's supposed to be. He's just a big guy. He's a big guy who can box you out and still eat you deep. Good news, Chicago. United Airlines is getting brand new planes with all the bells and whistles like Bluetooth connectivity, screens at every seat and room for everyone's roller bag. United, proud to fly the Chicago Bears, and you too. Had a conversation, met him for the first time. Cannon Matthews, Tom, is a veteran coach. He coached in the NFC East for the Dallas Cowboys with Al Harris on that staff down there. Also, Washington Commanders, been with Cleveland, been with Tennessee. It's going to be interesting when and if Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson return to the lineup, how they will use all their personnel. But that's already been discussed behind the scenes in the coaching staff, and here's some of that intrigue.
Teach the technique. They're really just X's on the page. Okay. And so if we do decide to go a certain way, it's not like the first time that they've heard it. It's like this is the technique versus this is only limited to this position. And so that helps once you get to the point of like, all right, we're going to go this route. Now we can just kind of slide people in, and it's not the first time that they've heard something.
What are you seeing from Eagles?
Oh, man, talented team. It's a team that I've faced now being in the NFC East for the past 8 years. So I've seen every version that they've had, and they don't stop, man. They've got a really good group, good coaching staff. I've worked with a lot of those guys before, but offense, just a lot of weapons. You know, just from the running backs to the tight ends to receivers, everybody's a threat. And so that presents a challenge for the defense to just stay disciplined and just doing your job and not trying to do too much just because of the talent that they have.
Can you get lulled into that a little bit as a defender? Because first of all, you know, Jalen takes his time back there, and you're going to have to plaster coverage because he takes a minute, and he's rugged when he goes, and he's hard to bring down.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's the name of the game with a guy who's a dual threat like Jalen. Like you have to be disciplined. We kind of have a saying like you're not covering just the first play, but you're covering the second and the third play. So definitely disciplined, and then just what their scheme does, like we have to be disciplined in our techniques and our eyes just in general, and then when you add the scramble element, it's going to be a big factor in the game.
Last thing, and this is team-wide defensively, frankly team-wide, Ben said many times everybody's going to have to make a play in this on this team. When the guys are out there and doing it, what does that do to the entire roster for the guys who haven't had that opportunity yet? Because I'm thinking it's a feeding frenzy. I got to get out there.
No, absolutely. I think it just kind of shows that, especially when it's guys who have been asked to step up, when their number's called, they've made the plays, it kind of gives those guys behind them just like, okay, I got to make sure I'm on my stuff because, at some point I'm going to be called on, and the standard doesn't change. Like, I'm expected to make the play when I'm in there. And so it's created a good, healthy competition in practice and then in the games of like, okay, we got this interception, I'm leading the league now, like, can I match you? Or like, hey, I just got called up this week, got a sack, can you match that? So it's been really good from that standpoint.
I'm thinking some guys thinking, coaches say that, but I'm never going to get in there.
Yes, no, I mean, I think this season more than any has kind of proven that. And so it's kind of been something that we've preached since day one. Like Ben and DA set the standard as far as making sure we are developing those guys so that when the opportunity presents itself, it's not the first time that we're talking to them about making the plays and being ready. And so credit to them, that's been the mission from them from day one with whether it's practice squad or backups, just like they're no different. At some point we're going to rely on them and they need to be ready. And so it's so far so good, and hopefully we keep it rolling.
Interesting guy. I never had a chance to meet him until this week. Anything that sticks out to you about that conversation? Because you don't want to bench anybody. They've worked hard to get here, but you're going to put the best weaponry on the field on either side of the ball to get you the W each and every week, and different matchups may require different personnel.
Matthew's got 8 years of experience in the NFC East, and I like to hear that because I think that it really puts a lot into your coaching skills, abilities. And so when you think, okay, where does Kyler belong? How can we use Gardner Johnson? What do you think about, putting Jalen Johnson in these certain down and distances or different drives of the game? And so I think there's a lot that you can take from your past experiences of being in that division and now where you're at, and your talent better. So you really can instill a little bit of advice to some of these guys that don't have the experiences that he does.
Yeah, so they've been practicing, but we don't know if that window will allow them to return for this particular game. We'll find out, I guess, on Friday afternoon. How do you tell a cashier you're a Bears fan without telling them you're a Bears fan? With the Chicago Bears PNC Bank Visa debit card, which gets you exclusive discounts on Bears merchandise. Find out more at pnc.com/Bears card. Last piece of sound, I wanted to play Declan Doyle. We go back to Caleb Williams charting his improvement on play action, which is vital and has really helped him significantly, certainly over the middle of the field, where those defensive backs, like to sit back there with two safeties, Tom, in that shell that's deep, and then, move around at the snap. It'll be interesting to see how play action plays out for Caleb here in this matchup on Friday. Here's Declan Doyle, the Bears offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Obviously, there wasn't a ton of it on tape last year just with what they were doing. It's been a huge part of Ben's offense in Detroit and kind of the offenses that, we've been exposed to in the past. You always want to kind of have the ability to hide the ball and turn your back to the defense. It really allows your run game to be tied into your play action and your movement game. And so we felt like it was an important element that we wanted in the offense. And Caleb has really embraced it. He's done a great job of working through kind of the nuances of those things, whether that be footwork, whether that is related to his eyes once he snaps his eyes around and getting them to the defense and being able to reassess. But he's certainly come a long way from where we started.
What is the major thing or a couple major things Caleb needs to be aware of going up against a big Fangio defense?
Yeah, I think Vic has done a great job just over the years. I mean, he's really changed the way teams play defense. You've seen a lot of teams structure kind of the way they're built off of how he's built his defenses in the past. It's principled. They do a really good job of understanding, what their scheme, where the issues are. How they use their players is really advantageous to them. They do a good job of holding the shell and trying to disguise and make things cloudy on the quarterback. And so the main thing is really it's still about us. It's still about his process and being able to, see the defense and make sure that his post-snap picture is, either the same as what he saw pre-snap or very quickly transition into, hey, I need to move on or move my eyes or my feet somewhere else.
So, again, much respect for Fangio, first and foremost, from everybody involved here.
Yeah, what Ben called him sort of the godfather of defense, so it even trickles down to Declan. But I like the way Declan talks about Caleb being able to use play action, turning his back to the line of scrimmage and giving the play action fake and then turning and identifying his target. But to me, the biggest asset of play action is for the offensive line, Jeff. The way that an offensive line could be most aggressive from alternate angles is play action passing against those two big defensive tackles. So if I'm the offensive guard and I'm lining up across Jalen Carter and he thinks that I'm going to block him and he's ready for me to take him on, then all of a sudden Darnell Wright comes down or Drew Dahlman comes down. Now you're making him think about, okay, who's going to hit me this play? How are they going to attack me? Is this a play action pass? How do I react my second move against an angled attack block? And so those types of things, when Declan talks about, Caleb improving in play action as an offensive lineman, I would say, hey man, let's go with play action as much as we possibly can.
They had to be physical and be more physical than Pittsburgh last week. Couple instances, Darnell Wright, as we like to say, looking for work. He finished his block and he buried a shoulder into the guy rushing at Jonah Jackson. I love that kind of physicality. I'd like to see that continue against the Eagles. How about that cut block by Cole Kmet?
Love it. Listen, man.
That was awesome.
But it happened right there in that instant, right?
Yeah.
But you know how much that affects your next opponent? Because they're watching that stuff on tape and they know what you're willing to do. So now when you start to sense a certain motion before a play, now you're saying to yourself in your sense, should I hesitate a second? Should I not rush as hard? Should I not give as much forward body lean? Because the one thing you do about a cut block, if you were coming at me and I knew that you just wanted to take me on with a shoulder, hit me hard, I know that you got so much weight leaning forward, it's easy for me to take your legs out from underneath you. So it's not only a block that happens in the instant, it lingers for a period of time when all these teams that are prepping for you get ready for it.
I like to hear that. A couple other nuggets, and we'll wrap things up so people can enjoy their Thanksgiving dinner. Tom, if you're listening to this on your car ride to your grandmother's or your best friend's house, enjoy this podcast. This is number 190 already. I cannot believe it, but we certainly do enjoy it. Per Next Gen Stats, the NFL Stat Service, Tom, the Bears run the highest rate of cover 2 in the NFL. That's a surprising number to me that they would be at the highest rate at 24.3%. The interesting angle to it is that Jalen Hurts has only thrown one touchdown against cover 2 over the last 2 years. Think of that.
Well, to me, I would have to say, analytically, so what defensive line is in the game when they're running cover 2? Is it consistent with the personnel up front that's matching when they call cover 2? Because the Bears have a variety of defensive fronts, and they can change their pass rushing styles with the speed type of athleticism rush. If you got Javon Dexter and Grady and Austin Booker and Montez Sweat up there, or do you have Billings and Chris Williams and Ford and some of the other bigger body guys? And, is the front matching up with the back end? And so it'd be interesting to see what coverages match the line of scrimmage.
10 batted balls combined by Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis so far this season. Thoughts on that and how to deal with it?
Moving pocket, you have rolls that get you outside the tackle box. You have a waggle where you drop straight back and you kind of morph over to the right or to the left. You have play action. And so if they are, you got a lot of time block passes are because they're getting blocked. It's not because they're in the face of the quarterback. It's because they're getting stalemated at the line of scrimmage, and they got to put their hands up because they're not making ground. So you know it going in, so, don't become vulnerable to it.
So we talk about the interior of both lines of scrimmage, I think, is a key element in this game. Would you agree on all four units?
100%.
Okay, so that's going to be important. But this is interesting. The addition of Jalen Phillips, who played for Vic Fangio the time he was in Miami. Miami traded him to Philadelphia, and he is a free agent after this season. He's tied for 8th in quarterback pressures since the trade, which was Week 10. He's got 17 overall since being traded. He had 8 pressures last week. That's a significant addition to a defense that already has some names on it. With Nolan Smith on the outside, he was banged up. You got the off-ball linebackers, Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean, who's now healthy. You got your corners, Quinyon Mitchell. Adoree Jackson's banged up, but Cooper DeJean is either going to be nickel or both on the outside or nickel. So how do you look at this overall? It's not just Jalen Carter, is it?
No, it's not. So I'm trying to look up the injury report right here because Jalen Phillips was on the injury report yesterday. Now today he's not on it. So I guess it's not a question. I think he's blockable. I'm not, I have more concern of Jalen and Jordan on the inside as defensive tackles and what they mean to a football team, because the Bears are just coming off of a game where they played, prime exterior players. And I think that the offensive tackles did a good job against them and a lot of one-on-one pass blocking assignments. So you're going to have to block him. And if you want to physically attack him, see how he holds up in this cold weather against cut blocks by Cole, big blocks by Colston, big hits by the offensive tackle position, and try to attack him to see how he reacts.
This podcast is brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer partner of your Chicago Bears. Tastes like Miller Time, Chicago. Go to MillerLite.com/BearsPod to find delivery options near you. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Tom, they're saying 25-mile-an-hour gusts at Lincoln Financial Stadium on Friday afternoon. That should make it quite interesting. It's a stadium that has one side of the stadium will create more wind than the other, so I think what direction you're going is going to matter off the coin toss. I mean, there's a lot of layers to this game, and I can't wait.
Well, it's going to be an extra hairspray day for you, so be alert and be careful because the weather in this world goes west to east.
Yeah.
And by the time we get there, this wind and the wind that's going to be here tomorrow may be right in the midst of Lincoln Financial Field.
Yeah, well, you're the weatherman, so we'll take your advice, that's for sure. All right, that's going to wrap us up. Again, happy Thanksgiving to all of you. Hope you'll join our broadcast and be rooting the Bears on to victory. For Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe now on the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bear down, everybody.